if we can open up our institutions and if people, citizens, can lean into the space and create an alternative future. And this is where I jump to my frameworks. The first is this set of stories that I talk about. The idea that I work with is that you can understand this moment in time through the lens of what I call 3 stories of self and society. And the easiest way to introduce these is a quasi-historical shift. End of the 19th century, beginning of the 20th, we lived in what I call the subject story, as in subjects of the king. The right thing to do in the subject story is to keep your head down, do as you're told, get what you're given, on the basis that there are a God-given few who run society, who know best and will lead us to the best outcomes. This is the story of kings and queens and empires and colonization. In the subject story, people are dependent. They have stuff done to them. They obey and receive, and organizations and leaders command them. And that story fell apart at the end of the 19th century, beginning of the 20th, because industrial revolution, rise in the middle class, you just couldn't sustain that story anymore in the face of the rising middle class. 2 world wars followed, and out of them, we more or less deliberately, more or less consciously constructed a different story, what I call the consumer story. In the consumer story, the right thing to do is no longer keep your head down, is to pursue your self-interest, on the basis that self-interest will add up to the collective interest. But that's how the best society will result. In the consumer story, all organizations, government, business, all exist to serve us with choices. In the consumer story, we're independent. We have stuff done for us. We choose and demand, and organizations and leaders serve us. And I believe that what we're living in right now is the collapse of that story, just as the subject story fell apart before, and the collapse of all the institutions and systems and structures that are designed out of it, including consumer democracy, the idea that we can face massive collective challenges across the world based on a system that asks us to choose who to give our power to from within a fixed set of options and make that choice on the basis of our individual self-interest once every few years. It simply can't work. And as the consumer story collapses, what we're seeing is the return of the subject story. In the uncertainty and chaos that's created when the story of our society no longer works, the appeal of the strongman leader who says, don't trust them, trust me, is very powerful. But the reason why I start with the Taiwan story, and the reason why I offer that first, is to show that there is an alternative logic available. And that's what I call the citizen story. In the citizen story, the right thing to do is no longer to keep your head down and do as you're told, nor just to pursue self-interest. It's to get involved. It's to contribute your ideas and energy and resources to the pursuit of the best outcomes for society, and to transform our institutions to tap into the collective intelligence, collective wisdom, collective resource that is then available. In the citizen story, we're interdependent. We do stuff together with and through organizations. Our role is to create and participate. And the role of organizations and leaders is to facilitate that. And if they don't, it's up to us to create it. Now, this second framework builds off that. I'm not going to go into loads of detail on all of this, but just to give you a brief orientation to why I think it's useful, and then you might want to read up more about it. It's called the 2 loops theory of change, originally proposed by the Buchanan Institute. And what you have here is a first loop, a semicircle that drops away, that is the dominant system. The idea here is that there are times of fundamental change when there is a dominant system that is in decline, but is still dominant, because it is the system out of which we have created all of our institutions and structures and processes. And at the same time, as that decline happens, there is another system emergent, a system underneath the horizontal, out of sight, but taking shape. And in these times, the great work we have to do is to stand in both systems, helping the old system die with dignity, not spending too much of our energy fighting it, but fostering and building the emergent system. And this is where the language that you'll see on this slide, the language on the dominant system of hospicing, like I say, helping the old system die with dignity, and on the emergent system, the work of naming, connecting, nourishing, and amplifying, building the energy and the momentum of that new system in order that it's ready to take over as a new dominant. And this is where I turn back to my other 2 stories to illustrate what this might mean in practice and what it might mean where you live, what you might be able to do. The first story I want to tell